I think there's a lot that has been achieved by the wonderful panel here. So the way I was thinking of just going about this, that I would love to hear the stories of both Rajneesh ji and Alaknanda ji, and then finally, share my own and also attempt to synthesize, some of the learnings that we can really get by speaking to three people who very much gone through this or are going through it, like in my case. So without wasting any more time, request Alaknanda ji to please go first.
I will keep it short and crisp. It's quite late now. So I came to know about my tumor first in April 22. But just because I had a performance and I'm a workaholic dancer and an artist, so I just thought that I will delay it for a month because I had a show called Maharaj. And as soon as that got ended, I was operated on 27th May 22. And we came to know that I have cancer on my birthday. And I had to go for another open cut surgery. But that also I took another 15 days extra to operate because I had 2 more shows, because I always chose dance over any of my illness. And I always believe that there's more to life. And what do you choose is more important. How I live today is more important. So I just thought that let me just dance and then go for my next surgeries. We are talking about illness over here, but I always believe it is better to talk about the mental strength and emotional strength. And that I got through dance. And after my surgery, definitely my legs were not moving because of all the medicines I had. And I asked the doctor, just reduce the dose of the medicine. And I remember in the ICU, I did on the bed, ta thay thay, tata ah thay thay. And that was my first relief that I'm alive and I'm ready to kick the world again. And during the chemotherapy, 6 chemotherapies, I did some 15 shows. So people say that
Wonderful.
it was just a mental strength that I went on, because I believe what I'm born for, and I'm supposed to understand that and live my life and not just given to cancer. And also I feel cancer says I can survive in life.
Thank you for sharing that beautiful story. And I think dance is something we have in common, because I'm also a trained dancer, and often
Lovely.
when people say that live in the moment, I find that the only time I'm able to do that when I'm dancing. Otherwise, it's much harder to do and easier to say. So that's really wonderful to hear that. Rajneesh, your story, please.
Okay, thank you very much. It was so nice to hear some amazing doctors and nutrition people share some very interesting inputs, and I could really connect with a lot that was said. I got diagnosed with with colorectal cancer way back in July 21. It was a stage 4 case. It had moved to the liver. So this was like a super urgent situation. I am running a HR consulting company of my own. And so obviously the work completely took a backseat. This came as a complete surprise. But I was very clear in my head, this needs to be taken care of. I need to get back to work in like a snap. And I just called it, just one word I used, I just called it like a blip. That this has happened. It's far more important, what do you do with it next? So I told my doctors at Max Saket, which is where I live, and very fortunate, I never really approached any doctors through some references. Good old Google Baba took me to these doctors next door. And trust me, these 3 gentlemen today are my best friends. Last 3.5 years, the cancer in a way showed up in a very, very tiny form. So yes, the story doesn't really end once it has showed up in your body. But it's far more important, as we were hearing from Alaknanda, that, how do you really take it? The game is all mental. If you say super strong there, with a very solid support system, I think that starts with your spouse, with your rest of the family. I think one has been very, very fortunate to have that. and tons of friends, I would say. Lots of them. I think the day I was rushed into surgery, into the OT, which I had never ever dreamt that I will land up there. This was a 11-hour surgery that I went in for. And honestly, I never thought whether I'm going to come out even. But when at 8 p.m. when I came out and I asked the people who were pushing my stretcher, and I asked them, what's the time? I had gone in at 8 a.m. And they said, sir, it's 8 p.m. And I was stunned. But at the same time, I was very happy that guess what? I'm out. That was my clear kind of statement that one has overcome. And that's when the chapter B really started in my life. But I'll come to that much later. I think over to you, Urvashi.
Okay, so yeah, I think I'll just very quickly, share my story before going back to the panel. And this clock is ticking down 8 minutes. It feels like an exam, so I have to, I have to make sure we're on time. So my story, I would say that. And that I think will illustrate how just like two people are not the same, two cancer patients are not the same. And we will all react very differently. And we should be allowed the space to react the way we are reacting, right? So I was diagnosed in 2022, so now almost 3 years back. I was just 35 years of age. A lot of people would say, that's the prime of your life, right? Personal, professional, every which way. And I was diagnosed with a cancer I'd never even heard of. It's a commonly called a non-smoker's cancer, lung cancer. And ALK, was something I'd not even heard of, even though I'm myself a public health professional, but I was like, what the hell is this? It took me several months, I would say. I was in deep, deep depression. And I want to say that I have always been the most active, the most driven person. But sometimes it's not a choice, you're not being down because you choose to be down, but that is your condition. I was in deep depression. And I had to say to my oncologist that, the depression is going to kill me before the cancer does. So we need to do something about it, And since then, I've been on antidepressants, which I take till today. And I must say, they are quite my lifeline. And I don't feel ashamed or embarrassed to say that I need that support. I think many patients need that support, but we don't talk about it, And I think what I took away from your story is obviously, there was so much of a desire to still keep moving forward. And I think that is there in all of us. But for some of us, when this hits us, we really don't know, what to do and where to go. And I was one of those people who was so much in shock that I couldn't even process. I think it took me several weeks or months to even process what the diagnosis was. So I think the point that our stories just show that, we all respond very differently, and we should be given that space, and we need mental health support to be an integral part of cancer. If somebody doesn't need it, that's wonderful. But if there's somebody like me, then, that support must be available. So I think that's what, I have realized through my journey so far, because I don't have an end date in sight. My cancer is still one which is very poorly understood. Research is underway. Currently, it's incurable at stage 4. So I don't know where is the end to this. And therefore, for me to always be positive or happy is just not possible. That would almost be inhuman and unnatural.
I believe that you live every day. You only
That's
die
right.
once.
That's right.
So
That's right.
Each
But-
morning I get up, I feel, okay, I've got today.
Correct. But I think it's just that living with that sword constantly every single day, where you don't know what your next scan will show, your next blood test will show. I think at doing that is very hard. So that's where I am at. But I think obviously my fellow panelists here have done a much better job of processing a very difficult diagnosis and also dealing with it. So I'll come back to you, Alaknanda ji, for your further thoughts on this.
Look, as Sir said, that you are never sure that are you completely free of the disease or not, because again it came back to me in a small way, and I dealt again with another surgery and more chemos. But when I had the chemo this time, I took a stop at it because I felt the chemo was not helping me much and I was getting weaker. So I took to alternatives. So it is actually your call and your doctor's call that how you're going to process further. Till the time I am good and I'm taking the precautions, I'm taking the diet. We had a dietitian over here. We are taking the calls that the doctor wants, the CT scan, the PET scans, or whatever other processes are needed. I'm going to live on. When it strikes again, I will tackle it again the same way. Till now, I'm going to live my life fullest, dancing, a little drinking, a little sugar also, I don't mind, and live with all emotions intact, because that's the only way to live. There's no other way, because as I always believe, जैसे वो जिंदगी ना मिलेगी दोबारा में कहता है 40 साल में तुम क्या करोगे? You don't know if you have tomorrow or not. So live it today. Today is the day, and live it fully, 100%.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Rajneesh ji.
No, so, one of the things that I did, and I don't know, I mean, whether God has its own ways of giving you a second chance to do something more in life. When this got diagnosed that night when I came home from the hospital, I straight away went up to my terrace and I started typing on my phone. And the reason for doing that was that, my story needs to be shared. More patients need to be given the courage to fight this. What we heard from Dr. Agarwal, from Goyal, just before this panel, was that there are more survivors. That's the data. So let's not get scared with the big C anymore. I think the doctors are doing phenomenal work. We got to have a lot of confidence in them. I think they are on top of their game, very, very clearly. As patients, we got to give them complete trust so that they do their job 100%. I think that's very, very important. The journaling that I started doing, and that night I just figured out, I don't know where it came from, because I was being this very nice schoolboy, going to a principal who said, okay, write this, do this. So the title of my journal came up to my mind was The Good Patient, And I started typing furiously on my mobile. By the time I came out of my surgery, out of the hospital, probably once my stitches were taken off, it was out in the social media. And having worked at Network 18, been in media for quite some time, so naturally my friends took up the whole story. And it definitely became, it trended big time till date, honestly. Right now, I'm in a very, very strange situation. This month has been tough on me. At the moment, I'm handling almost 5 cancer fighters at the same time, friends, family. There are cases all around us. The only thing I can do right now, which I've done all my life while running HR for different organizations, is how do I inspire people? And this is now what I'm doing. I'm inspiring patients right now. And I believe this fight is doable. You can overcome. It's just about giving it your 100%. That's very, very critical. So through my journal, through my talks, wherever I go, I think the only thing that I can spread is hope. And that's very, very important. That's half the battle, honestly.
Honestly, it's very important to be very honest to yourself and to the public. If you start hiding it, if you don't accept it yourself, you will never be able to fight it. And when you're putting it out, I put it out on my birthday that I have cancer. And people were shocked. And artists, artist fraternity is very scared and insecure somewhere. They're like, you're putting it out on the social media. I said, why should I hide it? There's nothing to hide. And after that, as Sir said, I've been getting messages that, how are you living so happily? I said, because I accept. The day I got bald, I was live on Facebook, and people said, "How are you doing that? Being an artist, I'm supposed to have long hair, good eyes, but doesn't matter. I accept myself, so you accept yourself." I love Sheikh Shakal Khush hai.
Well, wonderful. And I think on that note, I can see time's up. So I really think that through this panel, hopefully, you would have seen very different people, different stories, different journeys. No one size fits all, but we all have that desire, that will to carry on, to live, to not let the disease define us. And I think at the end of the day, hope, that is really the word, for all of us, and including people like us, who are in this difficult situation. But there is always a hope for a better future and for a better tomorrow.